Wait a minute, that's just around the corner? We can get there?
We're here at Trosky Castle, the location that we know will be the center of the first map of KCD2. It's going to be almost as big as the entire first game, and this structure is going to be the most important one. A very, very defensive position. We're going to tell you all about it. We've already been exploring the landscape a little bit.
We're gonna go up the castle as well, but you can already see it's in ruins, because in the game it will be just built like 15 years after they build it. So it will be whole castle. Right now it's ruins, and that's where they get the name. It's called Ruins in Czech, Trosky.
So we hope you enjoy this. We think we were very well positioned to tell you all about the locations of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 because we live in Prague, not far from here. I actually have a degree in history, and I loved the first game and the history of that. And Michal knows the environment.
Because I am Czech myself. So we're gonna tell you everything we can. So let's continue.
To the task! So this gives a sense of the tremendous scale of Trosky and how intimidating it would be to try to attack it. We've already been walking for like 15 minutes uphill, so I'm a little bit out of breath just from coming halfway up the lower tower, but this gives a sense of the incredible fortifications that we have here, because imagine you're an attacker coming from way down there, already from the tree line, you're going uphill in armor, and this entire way, people on this platform, from those towers up there and there, from these platforms, and I don't know if you can see it, but other levels down here, all of them will be able to host archers with a clear shot of any approaching army. And medieval archers could shoot up to 20 arrows per minute, which means that while running uphill in armor to attack this castle, you are dealing with the equivalent of a medieval machine gun if there's just a single archer there. Taking all that into account, it's no surprise that Trosky Castle was never taken with a direct assault. I definitely wouldn't like to try. So we're here on the top of Baba Tower, which is the shorter one, only 2 stories high, but 6-sided. This originally would have been covered, and this would have been the top floor here with these big windows looking out with a 360-degree view all around. Across the castle, we can see Pana Tower, which is square but 3 stories high, also included the chapel. Both of these would have had incredible defensive positions because you have a 360-degree view around the surroundings in every direction. You could place archers here on both towers and defend it. So this was a very, very well-positioned castle that controlled the entire countryside surrounding it. The most distinctive part of Trosky Castle is, of course, the 2 towers. The tall square one rising slightly higher than the sturdy 6-sided one. Today, the taller one is called Pana, or in English, the Maiden, and the shorter one Baba, or the crone or old woman. It's an open question whether these names will be used in KCD2 because the legend goes that these names originated from the time of Burgau, the owner of the castle whom Henry and Hans go to visit, but we don't know exactly when the names were applied. The legend says that Burgau was planning to depart on a long trip, so he called his mother, Maria, and his daughter, Carolina. He told them that he's going away, and together that they should take care of the castle and the surrounding lands and people. At first all goes well, but soon jealousies began to rise. Carolina looked into her mirror and told herself that she was younger and prettier, and soon she would marry a rich nobleman, so why couldn't she rule the castle on her own? Maria looked into her mirror and told herself that she was wiser and more experienced, so why couldn't she rule alone? They argued more and more until they both withdrew into their respective towers, and soon their only communication was shouting at each other from their towers, insults echoing across the courtyard. The country around Trosky soon became poor, and the castle servants quietly left to look for food in the forest. Sometimes they could still hear the screams of the 2 women echoing off the rock structures around the castle. After some time, the horrible screams and shouts stopped, and one young boy said he would go and look into the towers. He went into the wider one and did not find anyone, except the window was wide open. He did not find the young Carolina in the second tower either, and to this day, nobody knows what happened to them. Slowly, people returned to the valley and once again they prospered. To remember the terrible effects of family rivalry and jealousy, they gave the castle towers their names. The shorter one, the Crone, after Maria, and the taller one, the Maiden, after young Carolina. Even to this day, during terrifying stormy nights when the wind whistles through the stones, some people say that they can still hear two female voices screaming at each other like banshees among the remains of the ruined castle. So when we arrive in Trosky Castle with Henry and Hans in the year 1403, will we meet Maria and Carolina? Will there be any sign of the conflict between them? And will we build relationships with them, knowing how they are fated to meet their ends? So this shows the ingenuity of medieval engineers, because it doesn't look like much now, and it's hard to imagine how people lived in this big empty space that looks really cold and dark and wet. But these holes in the wall tell a different story. Those were designed as they were building the walls to have places to put in beams to create the different floors going up, and you see all the different levels. So as time went on, they had options to decide to have a very high ceilinged room or to have more floors on each area. In some cases, you can see where the hole actually goes all the way through the wall that could then push the beam outside and build defensive wooden platforms outside of the wall to be able to drop rocks and other items straight down on the heads of attackers. Very versatile, very simple solution, and giving them lots of options for changing their living space inside and having better defenses outside. Now, what I'm really curious about in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, we know there's going to be more siege warfare. The question is if they're going to have these wooden platforms also, and be able perhaps even to strategize how you want to handle a siege. So one of the absolutely shocking moments at the very end of Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 is not so clearly explained in the game, but for the characters who are living that history, it is a complete shock. And that is when Margrave Jobst says that in the civil war between Sigismund and Wenceslaus, he thinks that naturally we should be supporting Wenceslaus, which causes everyone to be in the shocked silence because Margrave Jobst started the war against Wenceslaus 10 years later and has been fighting against him. He founded the League of Lords, that was a group of aristocrats against Wenceslaus, and now suddenly he's saying that we should all be supporting Wenceslaus. Well, whatever his reasons, that is why Henry and Hans are sent here to Trosky, where another lord, Burgau, one of the League of Lords, needs to be consulted to know what the League of Lords actually thinks about the war between Sigismund and Wenceslaus. Now, we don't know a lot about Burgau yet, except that one of the lords says, well, you know, Burgau is no saint, and tells Hans, make sure you don't provoke him. To which Hans, an absolute troublemaker, says, provoke Burgau? Me? Never! Now, in the second trailer, the trailer for the second game, we see Hans and Henry in stocks being punished, perhaps in the village right down below. And I think that Hans does in fact provoke Burgau, and they get into trouble very, very quickly. The question is, does the League of Lords and Burgau, the lord of this castle, support Sigismund, who is invading the Czech lands, or Wenceslaus, who is the rightful king, the son of Charles IV? And what will the second game tell us about these really important, dramatic, violent events in Czech history? Perhaps one of the most exciting ideas about our adventures with Henry is that under the castle there are allegedly cellars and a maze of sandstone rocks and cracks completely inaccessible today, but which might connect to the large cave system called sklepy that includes stone towns and caverns big enough to hold entire lakes. And after defeating Trosky Castle, Henry and Hans depart on their noble steeds.
You were right about our stench. Let's hope this water isn't too cold. You wouldn't want your pride and joy shrinking.
I'm more worried about it being too deep.
Come on.
Don't tell me that you're afraid that our YouTube views will shrink.
Actually, I'm afraid that they'll get too big. And here in the trailer we see at least Hans and Henry going to take a swim in the pond. They have a camp that's actually right over there. We're gonna go take a quick look at it. And looks like it's not a very good swimming spot right now, but 600 years ago it was probably very refreshing.
Because 600 years ago they didn't have a swimming pool, so they had to swim whenever possible. But right now we can see there's a lot of animals around, and you can see the Trosky here as well. You see only one point because this is from the side.
All right, let's go check out the lake. So my long diabolical scheme to get Mikhail's shirt off is finally complete.
Okay, if you
Anyway.
say so. But this is about the game and the beauty
rocks.
of the Bohemian paradise.
This is
we're
an
at.
amazing place. Lots of lakes, very thick forest. I can already see us exploring it.
Yeah. I'll just let you watch it. That's how it looks. By the way, people usually don't swim in this, but you can if you want. I don't think it's prohibited.
So this is a road that we will probably spend a significant amount of time on in KCD2, because at the end of this road, we're walking along a lake here. At the end of the lake, there is the castle Nebakov, which doesn't exist now, so we're not going to visit. It is a hill covered in rocks. But we saw in the second trailer that there is a castle there with some cool wooden palisades right by the lake. And then this would be the road going from Nebakov Castle to Trosky Castle. So you're probably going to be riding Pebbles, your horse, along this path quite a few times, possibly chased by humans, and that sounds really exciting.
Czech Bohemia has many hills, so there's a lot of walking up and down, but there's a beautiful scenery even before we get to Trosky, because look, there's a really big, almost tower-like formation that is, I would say, like is it like 18 meters big? Maybe less, but it's all over this place, so it's just nice to walk around it. And I wonder if there will be suddenly more and more tourists because of the Kingdom Come Deliverance walking these paths together with us. And this formation should be in the game, so if it is, you can comment if you're going back here on this video and tell us that I've seen it in the game, because it's quite possible. Ooh, there is someone. Let's crouch. Let's prepare our sword. And let's get him, but silently. Okay, let's start. Just in case. I got a weapon. Ooh, helmet. Nice. I can get a helmet now. And this is the rocky formation that we talked to you about before. This is a significant place. It's not all over the place, but it's super close to the Trosky, so it's definitely going to be in the game. It's more like catacombs, because there are parts in between the rocks, and this is not the only place that is in Czech Republic where there's these rocky formations. We have several different ones as well. If you look at this one, you might see that it's familiar to some animal, for example, but this one particular, there's no one here. This is not like a touristy place to go to. Nobody goes here, and this is actually kind of a national park, so you're not supposed to touch the rocky formations, even though you can see some people already did it. And in the game, we're not sure right now if Henry is going to be able to climb rocks, because in the first game he was not able to. So hopefully at least the small stones, because as you can see around, this area is very rocky. We are still super close to Trosky, so this is definitely where we are going to be in the game. And in between these rocks, there'll be probably bandits or just small groups of people just trying to survive here.
Ah, who goes there?
Henry of Skalitz, are you friend or are you foe?
No, kind sir, please don't hurt me. Those damn cumin destroyed my home.
I see.
have nothing left.
You poor thing. Here, take some gold.
Oh, thank you. God bless you, kind sir.
Welcome.
God be with
God
you.
bless you as well.
And just at the foot of Trosky Castle here, you might be able to see the tower off there in the distance. We may have found a statue of Charles IV, who is definitely the greatest leader of the Czech lands who ever existed. Now Charles Bridge, Charles University, lots of places named after him. And Charles IV here was a great leader, and his son, Wenceslas, not so much. This is what caused the problems of the first game, because Wenceslas liked the booze and the women so much that lots of people became unhappy with him, and Sigismund decided that he could do better, but it didn't go down smoothly, and lots of violence ensued, which makes a great video game, would not make a great place to live. That's why you need to build castles like that were finished in 1390, and by the time we see it in Come Deliverance II, it's going to be just 15 years old, so far from a ruin, but that's the tower that dominated these lands for decades. Well, we hope you've enjoyed that journey with us through Trosky Castle, and make sure you don't miss our video about the history of Kuttenberg. After you've watched both, you can tell us in the comments whether you think you would spend more time in Trosky map or the Kuttenberg map in KCD 2. Make sure you stick around for more videos about the history of this region, because we've got a lot more in store to get you hyped up for KCD 2.
And if you like this video, please consider liking it, making a nice comment, so you help us, you're supporting this video and this channel. Thank you.
I'm feeling quite hungry.
And see you next time. Bye.
Bye.